At today's little project, and I started this having a very limited amount of time, but I wanted to see what I could do. Now what I tried to do, and this is the seat that comes with an R1, and I had done, anticipating that Glenn's daughter was going to be here and I'd let her play with the sewing machine, I did a lot of little practice stitches on here with the embroidery machine. But then I said, here's what some of them looked like. And I said, I got basically 3 hours, and I wanted to see if I could make a modification to this seat using a sewing machine, using this embroidery machine. I've just had a lot of fun with this every step of the way, and this will be the first real keeper part that I'm making. So usually when I'm making the first part of any like this, I'm willing to accept the fact that maybe it's not going to work out exactly the way I want it to. And maybe I'm going to have to make 6 of them. Well, as it turned out, and as we go through this adventure, it wasn't exactly like that, but then it wasn't all peaches and cream either. Now, I have bought this vinyl. It's about $10 a yard. The material stores sell various colors and textures, and you can order online specialty stuff, but basically when you buy the vinyl to make a motorcycle seat cover, it's got to be flexible. It's got to be that it stretches, and it's even better if it's the kind that's made to stretch when you heat it. So again, I have made probably 20 or 25 seats already, seat covers, recovered seats for antique bikes, whatever. And so I'm comfortable working with vinyl, but now I have an additional dimension to deal with the sewing machine. I can do complex stitches, and I can do, the main thing I wanted to try today was to do some embroidery. So while I was doing this, I thought, this was Karen's idea. We were out at Hobby Lobby, and I wanted to make the seat just a little more comfortable. Of course, it's decent. The seat that comes with the bike is decent, but it's always, my ass is just a little more tender than most, I guess. And I've made so many seats with various foams and different things, but I wanted to try some of this, and this is really furniture foam. And I thought if all else fails, the nice part about doing this is no part of this is a permanent change to the bike. Underneath the seat cover there will always be the seat exactly as it came from Yamaha. That hasn't changed one bit. Now the foam is real easy to cut, and it was about $3 for a piece of this foam. And it was just a little bit too small, so I kind of improvised around, figured out, this is just a test anyway, it's not going to come out good, or I'm going to be unhappy with it. But even if I'm unhappy with it, I can just pull out all the staples in about a minute and have the original seat back. And at no point are we changing anything to the real seat. So, and that's, anytime you work on a bike, if you always make it that you can go back and undo what you've done, like when you don't cut the frame tabs off on an RD, you can go back and put the thing back just like a stock bike. So anyway, and this is some glue I've had. We used to use this to make foam wings and carbon fiber wings for the model planes, and this is something I just happen to have in inventory, except it's about 30 years old now. So I didn't know, and it goes on like silly string, but I just need to hold the thing in place so that from moving around on a seat, hanging off the bike and whatever, the foam doesn't move. Now what's happened here is that you basically have to let this sit about, they say 5 to 8 minutes, and then you get one shot to put it down. Once you put it down, if you pull it up, the foam just disintegrates. So it's really sticky stuff now. And I noticed I left it cut enough, and I put some shape into it so it would radius all these edges in. I didn't want it to have a sharp edge at the very end. Now because I had played with this hoop, I call it the hoop, the embroidery hoop, hoop-de-doo, poop-de-doo, or whatever here, and I realized, when I first started this, I didn't have the right vinyl needle, which I have now. I didn't have the right thread, which I have now. And so now you can see once you insert that hoop, boy, the fabric stretches like a drum, so it makes for some real nice embroidery. And at the end of this video, I have, I think it's about 30 seconds of the actual embroidering of what we're doing. But again, it's all for fun, and it's all for just, actually, that I'm just enjoying using the machine. Now, you might notice I've got the whole thing sitting out, the cover is off. The reason is I broke the needle so many times that I broke one of the little nylon gears in here, the desmodromic gear or whatever it is, and I had to figure out how to fix it. And of course, when you call them up, they say bring the machine in. It's like, forget about that. I took it apart. An hour later, it was running like a Rolex watch. Now, what's nice about this, as you start using it, is it's just a fun tool to use now. And Glenn's daughter, Leah, has enjoyed using this. I've enjoyed using it. I'm not sure what we're going to use it for. I know you can embroider something on, you can put, and I'm thinking of Luciano, I can make him some more Ducati socks without him having to pay Ducati prices. And of course, what you do is you type in the font you want, just like a computer. You type in what you want to, the size, you can make the size, you can make it 90 degrees, you make it capitals, small letters, it's infinitely adjustable. You could make your own. I could get a little program that I could write the Ferrari logo, the horse and everything, which maybe for some future time. But for right now, because this is one of my 2 Ferrari bikes, I wanted to have it that just to see how long. And again, I don't know if this is some pretty heavy duty thread, but I don't know if it's going to stand the test of time from sitting on it. You know, when you're sitting on it, it may or may not withstand the test of time, but in which case we'll just make another seat cover, pull out the staples and make another one, or whatever. Or I think, and I'll show them at the end of the video, I've made about 6 seats for this bike already. And it's not like the original one is terrible. I've just tried to make one that was for long distance touring. I made one where I sit real low in the bike, like if that was going to be some value, I don't know. And I was basically doing it just for exercise. So now the thing, if you've never done one of these before, or any motorcycle seat, it doesn't matter if it's a seat from an ordinary bike, is there's a couple of tricks that are worth their weight in gold. Number one is use 3/8 staples, not 1/4 inch. 1/2 inch or too long, 1/4 inch or too short. And what I basically do is just put a few staples around the front, the back. They can be sloppy, they can be random. I just want to have the material go around. Now, what'll always happen is in the corners, it'll always be a big crease, and that's where you need to have the stretchy vinyl. In fact, I bought some material that looked like faux leather one time. I was going to try to make a seat for I don't remember what, and it didn't stretch at all, so that didn't work. So I learned from that experience, you got to buy vinyl that stretches if you want to do this realistically. And you pretty much can get any pattern. You can get thousands of different colors. You look on the internet, they make every possible color, alligator skin, whatever. But for us, we just want to have a simple, basically something that's a seat cover with a little bit of additional padding, maybe a little custom look to it when we get done pulling out all these wrinkles. Now, if you've never worked with vinyl before, and I've done some upholstery too, and our good friend Elaine Brookins, Bob's wife, did some work for me and gave me some tips and tricks years ago that I've tried to use. Again, you need a pair of pliers to pull out the staples, even if you don't think you're going to need them, because what you do is you put the staples in, you come out, heat it, and then pull the staples out and stretch it a little more. Then do the other side. Now, there's a unique problem with this that I didn't really think of. It's a problem that reared its ugly head early in this. I went to put the logo, and I said, well, I wanted the logo to be in the center. Well, you can't really see the edge here when it's like this, and you have the foam edges. So what happens is, if as an example, if I tighten this side more than this side, what happens is this thing is off center. If I tighten the back, it gets distorted. So all of the stretching and all of the pulling the staples out is all designed to keep this right in its middle symmetrical place. Now, The R1 seat has a little detent in the back here, which is very nice, and when you want to install a seat, you just pull up the back here. So we didn't want to put too many staples in the back. And you pretty much can mimic the seat cover that comes on the bike. You just look where they put the staples, actually, to be honest about it. But the Arrow staple gun and 3/8 heavy-duty staples, not 3/8 regular staples, 3/8 heavy-duty ones, make the job beautiful. And I'm sure Elaine would agree with that. I also have a power stapler, but I have found it unnecessary for doing this kind of work. But anyway, for people that like to do these kind of things and have a little custom look and do it yourself, not ante up to the bar and pay somebody. For me, there's a lot of personal satisfaction now. You can see as you're pulling out the wrinkles in the corners, you want to clip this back so that there's no extra material, and then always take the middle of the wrinkle, heat the material over here in this area, and then pull from that center. And that usually will get 99% of the wrinkles out. And you can see now we still got the wrinkles up here, but we've pretty much got the back roughed in. But the hardest part here is keeping this logo from wandering off one side or the other, or to the back. I wanted it to be right there. That's where I wanted it. And I had originally thought what I'd do, and it would be really cool, is I'd make the big Ferrari with the horse thing in here, and I'd get one of my friends, John Pothia, to computerize it and blah, blah, blah. But when I started thinking about it, maybe as a future project I'll do that. But for right now, I wanted this to be subtle. I didn't want to do it in silver thread or gold thread or anything. I wanted it to be very subtle, so you didn't really even notice it until you notice it. Kind of intelligent saying that. But now see, here's how, when you get to these corners, the trick is use all the heat you can. All the heat you can, get the staples in. Now, once the material's hot, pull out the staples and pull it, and you can move it in maybe a quarter of an inch each time, like stretching a drum. And there's just another thing of, I guess, the tricks that I've learned from my illustrious career in crime here. But that, little by little, and now you can see this one might show. Well, you could pull these two staples out, heat this, and pull it in. And little by little by little, you'll get all the wrinkles out. It's inevitable. Now, another thing is, where this big wrinkle is, it's got to go under the bolt head, because I've got to be able to peel this back, so I can't really put a staple in here. So I made the two sides of it extra tight, and it worked perfectly. Now, as I always do, I leave extra material on any place I'm going to stretch it. You need about an inch of material so you can grab it. And then once you heat it, sometimes I take the staples out first and then the material relaxes. But if you leave the staples in, heat the material, and then pull on it and put the new staples in, this will be a quarter inch further up. And actually, it isn't as complicated as you think it is. Even a seat, a complex shape seat. Now on this seat, what I've done, I've added the foam under here. So this seat is now going to be hopefully the print where you're actually sitting. And usually on the R1 seat, it's kind of humped up here. It goes up in the front and it goes up in the back, so that under hard braking you have a little bit of a cushion there before you slide into the tank. And well, we've kept that shape and made the seat just a little softer, a little more comfortable. Now I know Joe had a gel seat made. I made a gel seat years ago, didn't like it at all. I like the seat without the gel better, in fact. But that's another choice. You could get a thin gel. You could also use, I've seen people make the pad under here a yoga mat, or 2 layers of yoga mat, or there's a lot of choices when you're doing this kind of stuff. Now what happened here is, because I wanted this lettering to be subtle, and because I have a lot of lights and the camera tends to make this washed out, but in real life you really can see it. It's just a question of that's how it's showing here. Now the thread, and Karen showed me this trick. She's got a little tool for when this embroiders, and you'll see at the very end of the video how the machine works again. It leaves a thread connecting the 2 letters. You got to cut that thread. Well, I need a little pair of tiny scissors too. This you can probably see a little bit better. I'm not sure if this is going to show up the way it does on in the real world, but in the real world it looked great. When I got to this point in the job, and I was about 2 hours into it, I was just thrilled. I said, wow, this is going to be easier than I thought it was. Now, but the main thing here is that I wanted to keep that what I'll call the shape of your ass here, so that when you sit on it, you fall right back into that little, it kind of keeps you from sliding forward and keeps you from sliding back all at the same time. And there's nothing worse, absolutely nothing worse on any bike than a seat that you always want to slide forward on, because it puts a lot of extra weight on your wrist. And there's several bikes that I've made seats for in the past. In fact, Rob's bike, the black Kawasaki, I already made another seat for that bike, and used more padding and stuff, but I firmed up the front so you're not always sliding into the gas tank. And it worked so good, I couldn't believe it. So here, what I want to do is get a picture of the finished seat on the bike, and it doesn't look any different really than the stock seat, other than the fact it's maybe, by the time you stretch it all down, it's maybe 1/4 of an inch thicker. But then once you sit on it, that foam compresses, so it really isn't, maybe it's 1/8 of an inch thicker, I don't know. But it did look kind of neat in real life. The lettering came out nice, and I wanted it to be very subtle. That was the whole thing. I originally was going to do this with yellow or with white or silver. I have some silver thread, and I said, oh, nah, I better not. I wanted it to be just subtle. As the first thing, you can even see it from the top here. Because what I wanted to have happen is when somebody that is interested in bikes and they're in the shop, I want them to take a look and say, oh, what's that? Then as if you would want to go over and look a little further or deeper or whatever. And from the several angles I took this at, I think, yeah, and the interesting part is going to be to see how long this lasts. The thread is going to last. I don't know. Now, when I bought that thread, that was heavy-duty embroidery thread, and the woman at the place where I bought the machine and buy all my needles, because I broke a dozen needles already, she insisted that that would be fine for upholstery. So now, next project coming up, I wanted to make a seat cover for this. You see, when I made this, I purposely made this. This is actually a seat. It's an extra seat that Ray had given me, and I never really, I cut it down so I'm sitting lower to the foot pegs, so I can allow to have a little piece of that material on here, and then maybe up here I can write RD400 Yamaha, or I can make, my original thought was I can connect this stripe somehow with some fancy stitching, just to make it a little bit different. And again, none of these things are going to change the axis of the planet or anything, but here's just some of, and certainly not all of. Now, I had a seat that I had made for touring, and I originally thought when I bought the R1 that I would do a lot of long distance riding, and then I didn't want to do that. And the seat worked out so good, I never took it off the bike. Then I made a couple more. One of them I made with some material that was the material was not good, and it was, when it would get hot, it would get sticky. It would be like fly paper. I had some cheap stuff. And then I have the carbon fiber bucket that I made for the removable seats, and I have 5 or 6 of the removable seats that I've used whole pieces of cut foam and shaped the foam. But again, I'm not sure how much of that is still out on YouTube. But anyway, the 2 Ferrari bikes, and maybe what we'll do, because we use this for a track bike, of course, maybe we'll experiment with this seat, trying to do something real fancy here, that then I'll want to go back and do it on this bike. But anyway, and this is another one. This is a seat cover that I've made for the bike already. So, and it seems like all the material you need to do these things is relatively inexpensive. So you pretty much, you know, it's the kind of project I like. You don't spend a lot of money, and if you don't like it, the criteria are, if you don't like it, you can always go back to the stock seat. And that's an important criteria. And this is just, I think, about 20 or 30 seconds of what it actually looks like when it's embroidering. It's all computerized. You type in the font, you type in how big you want the letters to be, how far you want them to be, and the machine does the rest. And it's definitely a lot of fun doing it. So we got, now what are we doing with this one? I want to go to the next one. We don't want to get rid of that. I want to put that little video on here. It leaves that little piece of thread between pieces. So that's basically how that works. And as winter's starting to get in my dreams here, I'm starting to think of other projects I could do now. If you just look down a row here, and this is kind of important. We want to do something with the RD seat. I know that. That's a given. I do need to get a bigger piece of foam. Rob's bike, I've already made a black rubber, the closed cell, and made a new seat cover for it that worked out perfectly. Wow, it changed the whole feel of the bike, having that seat just a little bit wider, a little bit softer. The FZR, I don't really ride it enough to worry about it, but since we got plenty of this material now, we can play around with that. And of course the R1, which always fun making parts. And again, if you've making these headlight inserts and making a full exhaust system, I've got a lot of work in that bike, a lot of parts, that's for sure. Suzuki, the West Cooley replica, and of course our track bike, which hopefully over the winter we'll get that all rebuilt and painted up nice and ready for next year's track day season. So I hope you enjoyed this little thing with the seats.